Making a lesson here today on the idea of rhythmic feel and alternate picking, and I'm going to use a couple of Jerry Garcia's licks from Scarlet Begonias as my example. I'm trying to do a bunch of videos on this subject because I think it's super important and I think it's really overlooked by a lot of online guitar lessons. And the more ways you can work on this kind of thing, the better off you're going to be. Because really, no matter how well you know your scales and your harmony and all of that, none of it's really going to work unless you're really dialed into the rhythm too. So the two licks that I'm going to look at are the short ones that happen in between the lines of the verses, this one, and then also the lick at the end, the lick that sort of ends the song and launches the jam section. So alternate picking is really about more than just like a down-up motion. It really has everything to do with how all of the notes that you play sit in relation to the underlying beat of the song. And so the main thing that you want to feel is that beat on the downstroke. Everything's going to stem out of this motion. And this motion is really going to continue all the time, whether you're strumming chords or playing these single note lines. And in fact, you might notice that if I go from strumming the chord to playing that line during the verses, the motion of my hand actually doesn't change very much at all. Like the difference between strumming and picking single notes is actually not that great. I think Jerry might have actually played this lick up here in 7th position. Doesn't really matter, the lick looks the same either way. So your picking hand is effectively acting like a metronome, and you want to feel that downbeat really not just in your picking hand, but in your whole body, right? You can tap a foot, nod your head, and that strumming motion, to me, that's all one motion. Now I want you to watch my picking hand, and I'm sorry about my left-handedness, you're just going to have to deal with that. But that down-up motion is going to be constant. And as I play that single note melody, some of the notes are going to fall on upstrokes and some are going to fall on downstrokes. Sometimes you might have 2 upstrokes in a row or 2 downstrokes in a row. It has everything to do with where those notes sit in relation to the beat. I'll slow down a bit and exaggerate the motion a bit so that you can see what I'm talking about. One thing I'll point out is that after you play that first note, there's a bit of a pause, right? That note's a bit longer, and there's a beat that happens during that note. And you want to feel that beat even though you're not actually playing on that beat. And in fact, what's going to happen then is the second note that you play is going to get picked on an upstroke. And then there's a hammer-on there. And in fact, that hammer-on from the C sharp to the D sharp, the second note of that is also going to fall on a beat. So again here, even though you're not playing on the beat, you still really want to feel it in that hand. So if you find this oddly difficult, you are not alone. A lot of people have trouble with this at first if they're not used to it. So I'd recommend slowing it down for one thing. And another thing I'd recommend trying is to basically play it sloppy with your picking hand. Just kind of focus on feeling that beat first and foremost, more so than even picking the right notes. So it might sound like... And again, here I'm kind of exaggerating to make a point here, but the idea is that I'm basically prioritizing that rhythmic feel over even getting the notes right. And then once you have the rhythm dialed in a little better, you can go back and try to clean it up, make it sound right, but just don't sacrifice that rhythmic feel in the process. And another interesting thing I'll point out about this lick, when you get here, you have 2 really kind of staccato notes that you want to catch on an upstroke. This is an F sharp. Right, those 2 notes, you really want to make sure you feel those 2 upstrokes. So you can also apply this same idea to the outro lick. This one kind of starts the same way as the other one, where you have a note that you play on the first beat, and then you want to feel that second beat without playing anything on it. And in this lick, I'll point out there's a couple of points where you have those upstrokes that really get emphasized. And in fact, the last several notes of the whole thing are all felt on upstrokes. Remember that when you're doing it right, this should feel really smooth and easy and natural. If you're finding any kind of little hiccup in your playing or your upstrokes and downstrokes are getting turned around, something's probably off, so I'd recommend going back and really focusing on keeping that hand moving and feeling those downbeats the whole time. If you're finding this unnaturally difficult, I can promise you it's not going to stay this difficult forever. Just focus on staying with that beat the whole time. And once you really get this going, it becomes very natural. Honestly, when I'm playing, I'm giving basically 0% conscious attention to my picking hand. Obviously, it's going to take you some woodshed time to get to that point, but it's really doable, and in the long run, it feels good when you're getting it right. And another thing I'll suggest you try here is to take the rhythm and the phrasing of that lick, but apply it kind of elsewhere within the Mixolydian mode in like an improvised lick. So it might sound something like... So again, everything you're going to play stems out of this rhythm. It's going to fall either on an upstroke, depending on where it sits in relation to the beat. And in fact, this song really has a syncopated, funky feel because a lot of the upstrokes are getting emphasized. That syncopated, bouncy feel is obviously something that Jerry Garcia was particularly good at. Like I said, this is an important topic. I'm doing a series of videos on it, so follow me on YouTube or Instagram to see those videos, and you can find all my stuff at the website, highcountryguitar.com.